Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask you a question. How serious do you take your personal safety? Well, I personally take mine extremely seriously. I always carry. I've often laughed and said, if you're going to get me, you're going to have to get me in the swimming pool or in the shower. That's the only two places that my gun is not on me. Here's what I'd remind you. Predators hunt the unprepared. I'm going to tell you that no errand is too short or too small that you should not be carrying your gun. Some people have told me, said, Larry, I'd hate to live scared like that. Well, I've always replied, I'm never scared. I'm always prepared. Let me give you a quick example. I heard this story many years ago about a man that was taking out the trash. Simply taking out the trash. He lived prepared just like I do. He was walking out to put the trash out on the curb, and all of a sudden, this guy comes flying down the street, peels into his driveway, slams on the brake, and slides sideways in his front yard. Jumps out and starts to wailing on him. He's now getting the crap beat out of him. He said, I had no idea what the guy's intention was, but I was afraid I was going to die. He said, so I drew my weapon and I shot him in the leg. Put him down there, called the police. The police came out and looked at the guy as he was being loaded to the ambulance. The guy was screaming, he shot me, he shot me. And the police officer looked at the criminal and said, well, he had every right to kill you. So count your blessings today that he just didn't put one through your chest and kill you. Now, here's what I will tell you. The reason that happened, he thought that that was the guy that was having an affair with his wife. Ended up, he went to the wrong house. So, ladies and gentlemen, you never know when danger's right around the corner. We have a very special guest tonight. He's a concealed weapons expert, and we'll introduce him, but hang on for the ride.
All right here is time for Larry's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. Right here live in Little Rock, Arkansas. And now here's Larry.
Well, we're going to introduce Nathan Hedrick. I pronounced that correctly?
Yes, sir.
All right. He's the concealed weapons instructor at Bullseye Guns and Ammo here in Little Rock. And Nathan, it is a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I've got to say, Randy, that I went into the gun store and I talked to John Jones, the owner of Bullseye, and I said, hey, you want to come on my podcast and talk about guns and stuff and concealed carry? He goes, oh, I will if that's what you want, but it'd be better if you'd get Nathan. I said, well, okay. He said, he's my concealed weapons guy and he's the guy you're really wanting. Cool. So, Nathan, you come highly recommended, so don't disappoint
Excellent.
Tonight, okay? John, I hope you're listening to this show. If not, we're going to get all over you. I got to tell you, Nathan, I grew up loving guns. I had a dad. I've been around guns all my life, and my dad was what they always used to call an old horse trader, okay? I mean, he was only married to one thing, and that was my mom. Anything else, it was fair game, okay? This guy was always buying or selling or trading guns or this and that. And I got to tell you, I grew up around guns and I love guns. So, the story that I started out with, give me your opinion about that. I say that I take my safety extremely serious.
Yes, sir. I even have a shower gun and a swimming pool gun. So
I love the man already.
Underwater.
Just to show you. So I'm the same way.
Is it a water gun?
No, it's
the real thing.
But it's like you pointed out, you just never know when it's going to happen. And it'll happen the one time you don't have your firearm on you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It really will. And, do you want to be a statistic or what? I don't think with all the rights that Americans have, I don't think that they take their safety seriously.
I agree.
They really don't.
I agree.
I mean, I'm a very serious person, and I will say this: along with our Second Amendment rights, there comes what I would say is a very heavy burden and a great responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Carrying a firearm is a huge responsibility.
It is.
Massive.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where, you know, knowing the laws, being trained is very important.
Yes.
You know, if you don't have the training to deploy that, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
You know, in my classes, that's one of the biggest things I preach about is practice, practice, practice. It always blows my mind because I'll see, you know, people will practice for a sports, maybe it'd be football, golf, basketball, whatever, but they want to get good at it. And you know, especially when I have renewals, I'll ask the individual, you know, when's the last time you fired your gun? 5 years ago at my last renewal.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's not okay.
No,
You know?
not at all.
I mean, you're throwing lead at 1,400 feet per second. You need to make sure you put it where it needs to go.
And don't you think that all of us, people that as much as we love guns, honestly, we don't go to the range and shoot our guns often enough?
No, and I know for a lot of people, the cost is a problem. At the cost of ammunition, you know. But there's also a lot of other things that you can do. Just for example, just sitting at home dry firing, you know, making sure there's no ammo around and just practicing clicking the gun. They even make snap caps, which is just more or less plastic ammo for you to train with. They even have electronic stuff now, like that Mantis that you can attach to the front of your gun and it'll connect to your cell phone and show you everything you're doing. So there's options out there for people.
Right.
You know, I'm a big fan of just dry firing, you know, getting that muscle memory down. It's so important to have that muscle memory because, you know, when you're in a situation and you know, your adrenaline's pumping and you're under duress and you're not thinking clearly, and if you don't have something to fall back on, like your training, then you're kind of up the creek, you know?
Well, you know, unless you're willing to take responsibility and unless you can really come to grips with, I can take someone's life to defend my life, you don't need to be carrying a gun.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Absolutely.
You know, for years, I asked my wife, I said, would you please, you know, go get a concealed weapon permit? Well, I just don't think I can do it. I don't think I could take a gun and shoot someone. Okay, well, then what you need to do is not carry a gun.
Absolutely.
I told her that for years. Another quick story. We were out at Walmart, out Chenal, out here, and we had the habit back then of going to Walmart real late at night. I'm talking 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and doing stuff because there's not a big crowd around, okay? So we went, and it was cooler weather, and I had this full-length kind of a top coat on, if you will, and we come walking out. Now, I have the habit of scanning a parking lot.
Sure.
I can tell you, okay, Nathan, we got 6 people. You know, there's 2 people over here by this car and this, and I scan the parking lot. I'm not on my cell phone. I'm not yakety-yakking. I'm watching everything. Again, I'm not paranoid.
No.
I am prepared.
Absolutely.
And it happened to be that there were 2 guys straight down the lane, if you will, in the parking lot that were together. And I noticed them. There were only 2 people on that parking lot other than my wife, Carol, and I. And we were walking down the lane, and all of a sudden, one of them peels off and goes through some parking places and goes down the other lane. So they've separated.
Yeah.
And I looked at my wife and I said, these 2 guys are up to no good. They're getting ready to jump us, but don't worry, I'll take care of it. But do exactly what I say and how I say it, okay? And I said, when we get close to the one that is coming up to us, I want you to stop walking. I'm going to say hello. And then we're going to pivot and never take our eyes off of him. And we literally turned completely around and watched him. But now before I did that, I did something. I took my top coat and I pulled it back and I grabbed it with my left hand and pulled it to the side. And then I took my gun, was in my back at that time, had a holster in my back, and I literally pull the gun up out of the holster. And I did everything pretty theatrical because he was far enough away from me. I wanted him to see exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I did that, he did some kind of a signal to his buddy, like, these aren't the ones. These aren't the easy targets. Okay? And we get to him, and I have not moved. And exactly what I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" He kind of grunted at me. We stopped, and we turned, and we saw them come back down the lane, come back together, and they went through the door of Walmart. Yeah. And at that time, I looked at my wife, and I said, "I want you to know that my gun just saved you."
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They're no fools. They know what you were doing.
Exactly.
I know exactly what you were doing.
Yeah. So I said in my intro that I always carry, and you agree with that. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that we ought to carry a secondary backup gun?
Definitely couldn't hurt. You know, I know it's hot right now, and it's not the easiest thing to carry these, but, you know, I'd rather have two than one.
Yeah.
Two's better than one.
Right. Well, you know, when all the scamdemic, as I call it, during the Pelosi plague, when all of that took place, I went from carrying a Ruger LCP 38, okay, to my Ruger 9mm, and I also carry an extra magazine on me at all times. And so I stepped up my gun, and then I was carrying a secondary gun for the longest time, and I kind of laughed, and it's not the fact of, is Larry carrying? No, the fact is how many?
How many? Yeah.
Is Larry carrying?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I just have certain things that I do. So, you know, and we can get into that, you know, different things, ideas that you have, because I have some things that I like to do, but I'd love to hear from an expert like yourself. But do you think that Arkansas has some pretty good gun laws?
I think so. I think it's a very gun-friendly state.
I agree with you. You know, our current law is there a necessity that you have a concealed permit in order to carry?
You don't have to have a permit anymore. However, that permit does have some advantages to it.
Talk about that for us.
So, if you know, one of the biggest things for me having the permit, you know, is the reciprocity, being able to cruise into other states.
Okay.
You know, and not worry about if you get pulled over or something. You don't have to worry about law enforcement. You know, and then a big one for me is just the fact that if I have the permit, I don't have to do the whole background check stuff. It's, you know, the permit acts as a NICS exemption on the 4473, the form you fill out. So it just makes everybody's life a little bit easier.
Okay.
You know, you just don't have to do that background check, less paperwork.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Because in the Arkansas state law says that if you're 21, I think it is, you can carry a gun, but you don't have to have it concealed.
So
is that correct or not?
Let me. I brought some paperwork here so I can say this correctly here. Where did I put that? Actually, I don't know where I put that, but you don't have to be 21. You have to be 18 years or older.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, 18. Okay.
And legally allowed to possess a firearm. Now, obviously, at the age of 18, you know, you're not able to purchase a handgun. You can purchase long guns, but that doesn't mean your father or your mother could give you a handgun, you know.
I'm with you.
For self-defense purposes, or maybe it's just a range toy, you know.
Right.
So,
okay. I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but I was bouncing around the internet. It says that there's 3 million people in the state of Arkansas. That's our population. There's 217,000 licenses that are issued, which is about a 7.2% percentage. So I would say that, you know, I love my gun. I really do. I love guns, period. And I don't go anywhere without it. Should we carry a spare magazine, do you think?
I always do. You know, I was kind of taught that the magazine was the weakest link in the firearm.
Okay.
Because it's what comes in and out, you know. It definitely couldn't hurt.
Okay.
And on top of that, you got more ammunition.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So I think absolutely. I carry a spare mag on me, and I usually have one or two in my car too.
I preparing for this show, I was going through a lot of statistics and all, and I think FBI statistics said that a normal gunfight, if you will, I think there's only 3 to 5 shots.
Yes.
But you remember the guy a few years ago that stopped the mass shooting, the idiot that came into the mall, okay? He shot 10 times, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember how many shots, but it was a lot.
And he reloaded to his second magazine, okay, because it was a lengthy shot. And a lot of people were trash talking him, going, wow, he wasn't a very good shot. Well, at a long shot like that,
That's right.
So a secondary magazine really is important a lot of times, I think.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And you never know if it could have been another assailant there.
Absolutely.
You don't know how many people's going to be involved in this.
Good idea. Good idea. Is there any kind of a limit on how many magazines we carry in Arkansas? Do you know?
No, Arkansas doesn't. You as many as you can put on you.
So can we open carry?
You can, yes, sir.
See, that was something new during my research. I'm like, what? You mean we can open carry?
I believe it was Act 777.
Okay.
Is where the governor said we have this constitutional carry thing.
Okay.
So
I was really unaware of that because you know that I own the restaurant just, doors down from your gun shop. And at before 10:30 when we open, I'm open carrying. And at 2 o'clock when I lock the door, I'm open carrying. I watch all of my ladies that work for me. They go to their car. I watch them. They don't go to their car alone. I'm standing there. I'm open carrying because you never know, who's around and what's going to happen and all. And so I'm there to help protect them. So I really am happy to hear that. I go to Texas a lot. My daughter, son-in-law, and my grandson live there. And we go to Dallas. They live in Frisco. And I love that area. But in Texas, you can open carry there. And it has to be, it's required by law that if you don't want weapons in your establishment, you have to have an exact law that is posted on the door.
That's correct.
But in Arkansas, you can have just a little circle on a gun and they call it quits. Yeah. I wish that Arkansas would pay attention to that and kind of help that out as well.
Yes. Yes.
What's your opinion about a revolver versus a semi-automatic? Do you have one?
I don't. I'm for it's whatever the individual, whatever works for them best.
Whatever you're more comfortable with.
Yes. Yeah.
Because wouldn't it be safe in saying that if you're not comfortable with the gun, you're not going to carry it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I know, a revolver, 5 shots, not so many. Yeah, you got speed loaders and all this thing. But as you pointed out before, normally it's 3 shots, 3 feet, 3 seconds, Yeah. It's typically how it goes down. So I just always tell people, ignore everything everybody's told you and go with what feels good to you, what you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Because what works for me might not work for somebody else.
Right. Right.
And being comfortable with the firearm, that's big. It's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal.
It really is.
You have to know that gun inside and out.
I bought. It was either my daughter or my son-in-law a Ruger LCP, and my son-in-law is a bigger guy, kind of muscular, if you will, and he said, "I just don't like that little gun. It's too small for my hand."
He's probably got big bear paws. Probably can't even get his hand on it. It's just too small. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like it if I'm dressed up. It's a good pocket gun for me. That kind of a thing. The Ruger that I carry, the 9mm, it's a compact Ruger gun, but it's still much larger. And that's the one that I carry. And then he stepped up and went to it because he likes it. Now my daughter, on the other hand, she liked, I had a little .38 revolver. And she goes, now that fits me.
Usually for ladies in revolver, it's mechanically very simplistic. They don't got a rack, slides, load rounds, mess with Mac. You just pull the gun out and pull the trigger.
Yeah, right.
Mechanically the easiest out of all the firearms.
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
I had a Smith & Wesson. It was the hammerless. But, you know, the torque that it takes to pull that trigger, I told her,
trigger pull.
I said, I just don't think that that's the gun for you. So I gave her another one of mine that had the hammer. And I said, you can either do it without pulling the hammer, but if you've got time to pull that hammer back, it takes a lot less force to do the shot. Another question that I've got is, what do you think is the best caliber to carry? Do you have a preference on that?
I think 9's a pretty good caliber, you know, especially with a lot of the ammunition that's come out here recently. We've got some ammunition in 9mm that will give you the energy and ballistics better than a 40 or 45, you know?
Okay.
So, I mean, why not? 9mm has less recoil, typically holds quite a bit of rounds, you know, in the magazine.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get.
Yes.
You know, and it's fairly inexpensive, kind
I
of.
was going to say, it's one of the more cheaper.
One of the more cheaper ones.
Yeah.
So, I like 9. I'm a big fan of 9. But I like 40, 45, 10mm. It's just the bigger bullets tend to get harder to carry. You know, the gun gets bigger and heavier, and it's just more cumbersome to carry.
Right.
So
they may be fun to take to the range, but I just don't think
range.
I'd want to carry one.
Yeah.
I really
love
don't.
1911s, but it's just too heavy and too hot outside.
Yeah.
So,
well, I happened to take mine off here, and there's mine laying right over there in that chair, and I just took it off because I didn't want it to be kind of poking me in the. But I carry that gun every day, everywhere I go, and if I'm in the pool, it's in the pool bag.
Pool bag. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. What about if you're in the car? Can you have a unconcealed handgun in your car?
Absolutely.
So if you get stopped and the police officer sees, you know, I carry mine, but it's not right there at the console, but it's right in the console, because I didn't want to put it underneath the console, have to grab it out and do all that mess. You know, I just want to be able to reach down and grab it,
have it readily accessible.
But if I do get stopped, they're going to see it. Is that okay?
So the first thing that, you know, that ever needs to come out of your mouth when you come in contact with law enforcement is, hey, I have a firearm on me. You're required by law to tell them.
Right.
So that needs to be the first thing. And what I tell my students, you know, especially that's probably when we're going to come in contact with the law enforcement officers in our vehicle, because we're probably speeding or doing something we're not supposed to. But I always tell them, you know, before you get pulled over, have all those windows down so the officer can see into the car, so he can see what's going on, you know, and have your hands at 10 and 2 and just do whatever him or her asks you to do.
Yeah.
You know, just follow their directions. Don't go reaching for stuff, grabbing for stuff, you know, just follow their directions. And if he can see inside your car and they can see your hands at 10 and 2, I'm sure their threat level probably goes down quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not that I've ever been pulled over for speeding.
Right.
Where's that?
But
there it is.
But now the Huckabee family, they really are nice, because both the dad and the daughter have sent me a personal letter.
Oh, I know they have.
Driving is a privilege, not a right.
This is true, yes.
That probation thing that we're always that we hear about. But
Is that why Carol drives all the time now?
well, I did get on probation. She drove for over a year because I'm like, baby, I can't do it. I just can't.
Oh, no.
I don't know what that cruise control is for. I just, you know, there's room down there on the pedal, so I got to go. I'm a Ricky Bobby. If there's someone in front of me, dude,
That's okay.
I mean, they're in front of me because God intended for me to pass them, okay?
Right.
So anyway. But I have been pulled over a few times. And I will say that the first thing is I get pulled over and I get my wallet and I make sure that I've got my license and my concealed permit, because I got to tell you, I hand it to them and say, I am a concealed person. It's on my right hip. I will not touch it nor move towards it, but it is there. And I think it puts a police officer at ease.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes them know, hey, we think he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Leave him alone. And
Absolutely.
It could get you out of the ticket. It could just get you a warning.
Maybe so. I've always tell everybody, if you're, these ladies and men have stressful jobs, you don't need to be a negative towards them or mean.
No.
Just be courteous, polite, kind. They're going to treat you the same way,
Yeah.
And they're just, there's no reason to, you see these YouTube videos where people won't roll down their window.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all ridiculous, man. These are human beings just doing a job.
I watch them every night.
I mean, they're out there trying to protect us, and you're making it harder for them. Yeah,
no, I watch the state police chase runs every night.
The Arkansas State Police are awesome.
Right.
They are just awesome. They rule.
We watch those chase shows. Arkansas State Police at least once a night, and so we were at the restaurant the other day, and there was 2 state police officers standing there. I went up to them and I said, "Guys," I said, "just want y'all to know that me and my wife watch your show every night." And they look at me and they go, "I wish it was my show."
No kidding. No kidding.
Because that guy's making a mint. He's taking that video and he's got so many views.
Well, and what gets me about that is you can see that all their dash cam footage and stuff. Why do people run from the Arkansas State Police?
I have no idea.
You are not going to win.
Hey,
Right.
You can't outrun a Motorola.
Yeah.
And they do it. They try all the time.
Yeah.
I just...
We've got a lot of state troopers and police officers that come into our restaurant, Bobby's, and I'll talk to them kind of like Randy did. And I said, man, that red Dodge got me over in Russellville. They said, well, he ain't going to get you no more because he totaled that one out.
Oh.
And so
it's the black one they're looking for. It's that black one.
Well, that's the one that outruns them, right?
Yeah. Turns that lights out, goes black.
Where I used to live up until the last week or two, there was a guy that up until probably a year ago, he had a garage, and he'd back that thing in, and he would start that thing with a remote control, and then he would idle out of the parking lot and hit that road going up the hill. And I mean, those pipes, it would rock you out of bed, okay? And I told the police officer, one of the state troopers, I said, it could be the black Dodge that keeps outrunning you guys. I said, you might want to come look at it. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not so for sure if they didn't take me seriously and come look, because just a few weeks later, he moved out. He was gone.
Wow.
It was gone. So... we talk about the caliber that we want to carry. I used to have a friend that would carry one of those little tiny 22 revolvers in his pocket.
North American Arms or something.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, please don't do that. I said, you have to be concerned about pass-through. You shoot a man with a 22, and unless you hit a bone, that's going to pass through, and you're going to hit someone, and it could be someone that isn't even involved. Yeah,
and also there's just not a whole lot of stopping power with the 22 unless it's a well-placed shot.
Right.
People always say we can't use a 22 as a defensive firearm, and that's not true, but like you said, you need to make sure you got the correct ammunition in it, but even with that, a 22, it's got a lot of speed going behind it. It might not, the hollow point might not mushroom out like it needs to. For me, it's just the stopping power. There's just not enough stopping power.
Right.
And like I've pointed out before, we see people walking up and down the street all the time cracked out on drugs. If they're high enough on drugs, a 22 might not stop them immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
So a 380 9mm, that's 380 is kind of my cutoff point. I don't really carry anything lower than that.
Thank you for saying that, because a 22 or a 32, I have no. I just don't. In fact, somebody wanted to sell me a 32 here a while back, and I'm like, no, it's way too small for me. I don't even want it.
They're neat guns to go out in the range and play with, but for a defensive firearm, no thank you.
I don't even want it. I had one and took it and traded it for something at a gun show a couple of years ago.
Well, and the problem with 25 auto and 32 too is the cost of ammunition.
Yeah.
It's expensive and it's hard to find nowadays. So
Right. And you just want to make sure that you, like you're saying, you have those hollow points, those hotter loads to where you can really take.
something that expands.
Yeah. Hey, one last question, and then we're gonna get out of this episode, and we'll come back on episode number 2. But let me ask this question: what's your opinion about, do you chamber or not?
Yeah, that always seems to come up in my classes, and what I tell people is do what you're comfortable with. I understand that, you've got some people say not having a round chambered, you're behind you're behind because you've got to pull this gun out. If it's a semi-auto, you got to rack this, you got to do all these things to get it going. But if you're not comfortable carrying one in the chamber, then just don't. I mean, at least you're carrying a firearm. That's better than not.
Right.
When I first started carrying a gun, I didn't carry one in the chamber. I wasn't comfortable with my skill set yet to do it.
Okay.
And, as the years progressed, I started doing it. And,
I always have. I just am a firm believer of having one chambered, but,
well,
I will.
You're quicker. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Absolutely.
Right.
That's the way to be. But like I tell people, if you're not comfortable, then don't carry one in the pipe.
Right.
At least have the gun on you.
Yeah.
It's better than not.
Right.
But I'm the same way. Yes, I think the best way to be is to carry one with the chamber. You need to have it ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
All
right. Well, we don't have to agree or disagree on anything. We just like to. I wish that somebody would get into a real good argument. I mean. We seem to be getting.
I'm not going to get into with too big an argument. Look what you got over there.
Well. All right, folks. Hey, we're going to come back for episode the second part, episode 56, and I think we're having a lot of fun on this conversation. I think that we're going to help you out. So come back next episode and be prepared.